post-hunt rifle cleaning, right now on Pirate Firearms and Reloading. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So this rifle will look familiar from my last video on how I have my bush hunting rifle set up. So today I've come back from hunting, well actually a couple of days ago, and I've got to do a little bit of maintenance to this rifle just to make sure it's all good to put back in the safe, ready for next time. If you've got any questions about the setup or anything, jump over to that previous video, check it out. If you've still got questions, hit me up in the comments. So today I'm going to go over how I pull these rifles apart and what I do post-hunt. Fortunately this time we didn't get too wet and we didn't have to do a lot of bush bashing, so I don't imagine this is going to be terrible. I'm not going to bore you with cleaning the barrel. There's 1001 videos on how to do that. If you want to see a video on how I clean barrels and things, drop a comment down below and I can add it to the video list for sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a basic inspection first. So the Tikka mags, if you're familiar with these guys, they can't really be disassembled too easily. You can apply pressure to the little plastic tabs and drop the bottom piece out. I'm concerned that if you do that too regularly, eventually they'll wear out. So I just basically push the follower down at the front here, and I can see on the inside of the magazine, I can see that leaf spring. I don't think the camera's going to pick it up. Make sure there's no debris in there. Compressed air is your friend with that guy. Being a polymer mag and a stainless steel leaf spring, I've never found any need to lubricate it. This magazine has been 100% reliable. I'm not going to go contaminating it and changing it up. The Duracoat finish is slowly wearing away from this bolt, but it's not a problem. So I'm going to check the bolt face. There's a little bit of carbon and gunk in there, so we'll get a brush and clean that out. I will also lubricate the bolt cam. So the bolt cam is in here. You can see it's in the little notch at the moment. This is the notch when the bolt is in the unlock position. And then you've got the cam where it closes up. If you've got a question about these two holes in the bolt, check the previous video, I've explained that. So we're going to do a little bit of work on that. The scope remained nice and clean because I kept the caps on during most of my hunt. So I'm not going to worry about that today. Obviously, if you've got a bit of dirt and debris and a few marks and smudges on your lens, you'd be giving that a good clean too. I'm a little OCD, so bear with me. I have witness marks on all my screws and the nuts and all the ring caps. So I'm just going to go ahead and visually check that they're all lining up again and I haven't knocked anything, bumped anything, or something's come loose. I do use Loctite, so I don't imagine that's going to be an issue, but you never know. Now, one of the most important things to do is remove your suppressor. Suppressors can build up all sorts of nasty chemicals, and if you leave them on in a safe, they can actually cause corrosion in the barrel. If you do have to leave them on, a lot of suppressor manufacturers will recommend you have them at the bottom and the stock of the rifle up in the top of the safe, so any chemicals or anything potentially will go down. So I do put insulation tape over the end of my suppressor, or if I'm not using a suppressor, over the end of the muzzle just to stop debris going down there. I don't clean my suppressors. I do run a little bit of lithium grease on the inside of them, but beyond that, I don't really clean them. All I do is when that lithium's getting real nasty, I basically wipe it out, put it back together. That guy's a little bit of a nightmare to pull apart, and I've only shot a few rounds through it, so I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to visually inspect and make sure it is nice and clear and there's no debris in there. If you have a Tikka like me, you're going to need a T25 Torx. Now, also with a Tikka, just bear in mind you do have two different length screws. The short screw is further forward under in the chamber, and the longer screw is for behind the trigger. So I'm just going to lay them out in order over there. And we're just going to gently pop this guy out. So I've actually done very well this time. I haven't managed to get pretty much any gunk in here. Good old microfiber cloths go a long way. Pop the bottom metal out of there because I can see a bit of gunk in there. There we go. Right. So the good old double-ended multi-purpose brush or an old toothbrush works perfectly. And anywhere I can see any gunk or grass or any sort of thing that's going to rot or hold moisture or cause corrosion will get brushed out. That's that. I usually just leave my sling on there, just in case I get invited out or there's a bit of pest control to be done. I can just grab it and go. So with that off to the side, we have the barrel action left. So just gonna give everything a good old wipe over. Like I said, I didn't get too damp this time and didn't have to do a lot of bush crashing, so everything is pretty much spot on. The other thing to bear in mind with tikkas is sometimes the pin for your bolt release does try and leave the building on you. I think that's all the way in. Yeah, it looks like it. So you just got to keep that one in mind. It is actually captivated when you put it back in the stock. So you're only likely to lose it when you take the stock out. So I'm just going to brush all those spots where potentially gunk might build up. Make sure there's no dirt in the trigger mechanism and it's not feeling gritty, which it's not. And the other way, you can start to see some gunk building up in the bolt raceway, just on the end there. So I'm going to give that guy a brush out too. Oop. Try and keep your scope caps on so you don't get your lenses dirty. So short one back in the front, long one in the rear. Now I just do these finger tight and back them off a tiny little bit. So Tikka have their recoil lug mounted in their stocks. So I like to make sure it is hard set against that recoil lug before adding a 45-pound torque limiter. 45 inch-pounds is what Tikka recommends with their polymer. Well, you can't really call it a bottom metal, I guess. Bottom plastic. So that guy is back in the stock, ready to go. Now I'm going to focus some attention on the bolt before I go ahead and just give everything a light oil. So if you're in New Zealand, jump on Trade Me if you're interested in one of these. This is a bolt decocking tool, and they're all available on there. So basically you force it over the end and you can actually decock the bolt. Now a lot of people insist on doing this for storage because it takes the spring tension off during storage. What I like to do is decock it, and then I put a little bit of gun grease on the cam because that's the hardest wearing surface. The other thing I do is I put a little bit on the back of the locking lugs after giving them a nice clean too. Brushing the bolt face. The good thing about brushing the bolt face when the firing pin is protruding is it stops any of that debris actually going down the firing pin hole. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of this grease in there like that, and then just work the bolt back and forward. It feels smoother already. Right, wipe off the excess, just like that. Now the other thing to oil here is your ejector and extractor. And I've got a bit of gunk in that extractor, so we'll just give that a brush. This is where an oil bottle with a needle comes in really, really handy. A couple of drops here and there, just like that. So I'm happy with that bolt now. That's ready to be stored. So I'm just going to drop a couple of drops of oil on the raceway here. I'm not going to get too fancy. And then I'm going to drop just a little bit of grease on the back of the locking lugs of the bolt. I'll drop that guy in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull forward on the bolt as I lock it up, as to not wipe all the grease off the lugs, rather to get it on both sets of lugs, the set that is in the receiver and the set that is obviously on the bolt, like that, and just work it back and forth. So that's the size of the maintenance. Obviously I'm going to give the barrel a quick clean and oil it just to prevent any corrosion going on. The good thing about having your rifle largely painted is you limit the corrosion quite substantially. So that's it, folks. That's a very quick strip down and clean post hunt of your favorite bush rifle. Catch you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Catch you next time.